I think we're live.
And I do too. And a good morning to you.
Little technical issues there. Carolyn and I have total control over the entire World Wide Web, but we seem to have,
Ooh, it's amazing.
I thought we did, but we seem
Well,
to have total control for a few moments there. But once you know, going and fiddle with the World Wide Web and the interweb, and we did it. We're back.
I think that's a you thing. So, good morning, Dr. Rosensweet. Always good to see you. Welcome, ladies. Welcome, gentlemen. Let us commence with our questions. We do have some good ones, as is per usual. Number one comes in. Famous question we get. Dr. Rosensweet, I take hormones and I gain weight. I do not take hormones and I gain weight. Help, please.
Yeah. One of the reasons I love this question so much because for so many folks in midlife, unwanted weight gain in all the wrong places is so prevalent. And in our book Happy Healthy Hormones that Carolyn's made available, the 7th edition, even if you got the 6th edition, there's been a change. So download the 7th edition PDF version. There's a chapter on weight, and we devoted a whole chapter on weight because once again, midlife, this is one of the least favorable things that happen, this unwanted weight gain. And then the question is, what causes it? And anything that's happening in health that is not cool, that's a medical term.
Yes, cool. Cool and hip, I hear they added.
That's right. So much so that it causes changes within your body, in your body's appearance, your body's function. You can be sure that it took a lot to throw you off. And it's interesting when you're young, as in, to me, anyone under 60 is young.
Ditto.
Or under 70 is young. But when you're young, let's say in your teens, in your 20s, for many, many folks, not everybody, you can almost do no wrong. You've got so much resilience. Your production of energy and how you handle food is so robust that you can eat donuts 10 a day and still think you're going to do fine. No big deal. But that's not how it works. Every single health adversity that you do has consequences. They may not be drastic. Like if you swallow a glass of arsenic, you're going to have some drastic results really quickly.
Chances are.
Chances are, as in bye-bye. But most things don't work like that. It's a molecule by molecule thing. And this is one of the most common things I heard over many, many decades of being a physician. I don't know what was going on. I was perfectly healthy. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I started gaining weight, or I developed an autoimmune disease, or I developed diabetes out of nowhere. No, that's not how that happened. And I want to approach it from an entirely different angle, and one that this audience has heard before. That is, if we want to understand how we deviate from health and vitality and vigor, how I like to imagine it is that pretend on this wall behind me, I had a video of someone's entire life. That a videographer started videoing a patient from the moment they were conceived till this very moment. And the videographer had a magic editing button in which, by pressing that button, all the good stuff would disappear. All the fun, all the love, all the good meals, healthy food, good exercise, fresh air, pure water, all the great stuff would disappear. And what would be left behind would be a lot of footage. And what that footage would contain would be all the indiscretions or challenges from an incorrect food intake, from incorrect breathing, which includes what's in the air, breathing things in the air that have no business being there, but are there, incorrect water intake and the impurities that can show up in water, incorrect toxin intake. This is a huge subject in this day and time. It wasn't a subject 100 years ago. It's a major subject. There's so many chemicals that hurt the human being in the air, food, and water. And of course, we don't feel them when they come in. We don't drop over in our chair after we've eaten a manufactured GMO altered herbicide, pesticide laden thing that looks like broccoli, but it ain't.
Yeah.
The shadow of broccoli. All the too little or too much exercise. All the non-functional, exaggerated, hurtful response to the stress of life that triggers the fight or flight biology. And then there's some mysterious causes too, where you don't get to explain. But what we would see on the footage left behind in this theoretical video of someone's whole life is we'd see thousands and thousands of little micro, ultra microscopic insults. And then all of a sudden, magically, instead of having vital health, things start to go to pot. And people start noticing it. Some people notice it in their 20s. Some people notice it in their 30s. Some people don't notice it until their 40s. Some people don't notice it until their 50s. But they start seeing the, quote, aging. And it's not aging. It's accumulated millions of micro insults that hurt the metabolism, hurt the energy production, hurt the immune system, hurt the bones and joints, on and on and on and on. Weight, the exquisite orchestration it takes internally to maintain a healthy weight. Oh my God. It's reliant on so many things. It's reliant on impeccable diet. I'll define that in just a bit. It involves impeccable, really vigorous physical lifestyle. It requires a lot of breath. It requires not so much dysfunctional response to stress. It's not the stress. It's an exaggerated, harmful, hurtful to self and others, emotional and mental response and choice response to stress. These are the things that add up. And then bingo, because the planet Earth happens to be one of those planets where things turn into physical form, they become physical, things start showing up. And when you start gaining weight, there's so many different points that could be going not well. And of course, they would be significant because optimal weight depends on good metabolism. And what metabolism that's relevant here is when you eat your food and you breathe your oxygen, they combine inside the cell and exchange electrons, oh, lo and behold, and you create energy and heat. And you should be creating enough energy and burn enough of the fuel you've eaten that there's no problem. Oh boy, there's so much complex biochemistry there that there's a lot of places for trouble. Well, when you get into midlife and women are losing their periods and gaining weight, you could say, oh gosh, I took hormones. I didn't take hormones. I gained weight. Yeah, there's way too many other moving parts. There's a lot of women that the loss of the ovarian hormones are influential enough that they start gaining weight and depositing the adipose tissue where they don't like it. And you correct the hormones, replenish the hormones properly based on the individual woman. That process takes us in the menopause method 3 to 6 months, sometimes longer. And you get a lovely replenishment level with good balance and confirmed by testing. They will lose that weight. it's so many of these hormones affect metabolism. These hormones are the most powerful biochemicals in our body, but often there's much more going on. That's why, just as an introduction, in the book we have a chapter on weight. So let me tell you about the elephant in the room.
That
And that
guy.
there's been so much dietary abuse, and that what years and years and decades of inappropriate eating does is it gets us right in our energy production. Like eating too many simple carbohydrates, too many sweets. Well, what's wrong with a couple donuts a week when I'm 20? Or as I did when I was in the jackhammer crew, I ate 2 or 3 donuts a day. What's wrong with that? They taste good. Or, all the soft drinks,
Ooh.
which is only the beginning of the trouble. But if you start doing day after day after day an excessive amount of simple carbohydrates, you challenge a system that regulates the outcome of simple carbohydrates. Simple carbohydrates really come down to glucose. And glucose is a very essential thing for the function of our brain. However, it's like rocket fuel. And it needs to be very carefully controlled. And glucose has a designated hormone to control it
Mm-hmm.
called insulin. You drink a Coca-Cola with 6 teaspoons of sugar in it, 8 teaspoons of sugar, your blood glucose level skyrockets up, and that's unsafe because that oxidizes too easily, and your body knows how to protect you from that. It'll shoot your insulin level up, and that will force the glucose into the cells, and they're a little safer to deal with there. They can be turned into fat, they can be turned into a proper oxidation. And when you're 10 and 20, though this is no longer universally true, most human beings survive this quite well and they maintain no problem. But then all of a sudden they start putting on weight. And what's happened is their system wasn't resilient enough to keep up with day after day assault from excessive glucose. And for very specific reasons, your body makes itself resistant to insulin, and the insulin levels go up, which is the perfect recipe to lay down new fat. I'm giving you one example of one of the most common things that occur midlife is your body's had it, and you get insulin resistant, and you start putting on weight. And so when someone's not having, well, we test for insulin resistance right out of the gate with all menopausal women because it's so common. And how often do we see it? Well, let me tell you what I learned in the mid-1960s in medical school from one of my professors. Given enough time, everyone becomes diabetic.
Oh.
What diabetes is, you get so insulin resistant and you lose control of your blood glucose, and that has varying levels of challenges. Everyone, that was what they said. And all they were doing was an observation. They weren't cursing anybody. They were just saying medically, this is what we observe. Given enough time, everyone becomes diabetic or insulin resistant. Because the assault on the glucose regulating mechanism is so severe in modern day culture. And there's so many other factors. And I'm naming the big stuff. I wanted to go into the insulin resistance thing. The remedy always comes down to the same. Someone has to get committed to the healing of their own being and has to be patient. That's why people are called patients.
Yes.
Y'all are called patients. Oh, guess what? I have to be patient too. Because to turn the momentum on adverse health inputs requires commitment to one's health.
Of the largest order, yeah.
Exactly. And sometimes it feels like, oh God, I got to pull myself up by my own bootstraps. And it feels impossible to get my ass out there. Excuse me. That's a medical term, Carolyn. Don't
No,
take it
it's
personally.
French. I learned it. I learned it in school. That's French.
To go out there and exercise for the day, go take a walk,
Climb
or
Mount Everest.
the kind of discipline it takes to narrow one's diet down to what we ate for hundreds of thousands of years and we're equipped to handle. Natural foods, no herbicides and pesticides, organically grown so the nutrient content's high. You can gain weight simply by purchasing non-organic food in the supermarket. Looks like a piece of broccoli, is very low in nutrients. Let's say zinc, for example, doesn't have the same level of zinc that organic vegetables have. So after you've eaten your wonderful broccoli meal that was non-organic, your brain says, well, I got the calories, but I didn't get the zinc. Go out there and graze through some more food, please, until we get enough zinc. So you graze through more calories. Well, what do you do with those extra calories to get enough zinc? Just as one example. You got to handle those extra calories. And so we've entered the territory of a subject that can be staggering, or it can be as simple as take on the project of your own health, learn what a healthy diet is, learn what appropriate exercise is, acquire some skills so you're not triggering the biology of fight or flight all the time, and detoxify. So here's what a healthy diet is: organic. And primal foods, eliminate all boxes, cans, bottles. If it's been processed, you can be sure it's trouble.
Right. I mean, doesn't that go back to like the hunters and gatherers of the day, the cavemen, whatever? They weren't looking for boxed foods.
That's
You know,
right.
they were out there hunting, moving, exercising.
Yeah. Or they were agrarian if they were in the equator belt. You know, we all have our own genetics. So, and then you got to find the diet that's ideal for your genetics, which is not hard. It's pretty easy. Like if you decide it's a great idea to become a vegan, and then after a couple months you're craving meat, but you judge yourself so thoroughly that you wouldn't go near it, you're getting a signal from your genes
Body's
that
letting you know.
you want some more protein. Or if your ancestry was born around the equator where there wasn't a lot of meat, there was a lot of vegetables, and you try and become a carnivore and go on a keto diet, and after a couple of months you're going, this is driving me crazy, I feel sick and I can't poop. You have to rethink your choice to do some kind of odd diet. So I want to take us back: organic, whole foods, no processed foods, eating small amounts, which you'll be able to do because if you're nutrient rich, chewing so you can digest the stuff you're eating. Do that. Do it for 10 years. Because how long does it take to switch back a metabolism that has gotten out of whack? Now, exploring the hormones is very important too, because we put strains on our hormones. Women in menopause, those hormones are the most powerful biochemicals in a woman's body, amongst the most powerful. And when they decline, there's consequences, including consequences to metabolism. So we want to replenish those. And in the menopause method, we support everything to help our providers get expert in thyroid too, because thyroid's so critical. Most people midlife have challenged their thyroid. They don't have, quote, abnormal illness level hypothyroidism, but they got functional hypothyroidism. So we're I'd say half to 2/3 of the women that I'm treating in menopause, we have a thyroid hormone as well. Thyroid relates to metabolism, to burn rate. So this is big stuff, but then how many skills do you have around stress? Human life has stress in it, and that stress is important. And you don't want to take on this idea that it's yours to get rid of stress. What it is yours to do is do better with stress. So you don't have such a off the charts, exaggerated emotional and mental response to it. Because if you do, you trigger the fight and flight biology. And that is one of the perfect recipes for insulin resistance.
Right.
You wind up raising your cortisol and your adrenaline. Hoo, hoo, hoo. You keep doing that, your body's going to need to protect itself by giving you insulin resistance, which is weight gain, translates into weight gain. So the knee bone's connected to the thigh bone, but not to overwhelm you. If you decide at some point in your life that I want to get healthier, then you take on a 5-year plan and then a 10-year plan, and you take on a couple projects that make sense to you. Some of you will know, you know what, I've got to go from 6 Cokes a day to 2. And that's what I'm going to take on this year. So you take that one on. And if you accomplish that one, then the next year you go from 2 to 0. So long as you're turning the train in the right direction, it really changes the urgency around time. And your body and your being are going to appreciate that you're on a path to become well. And then year after year, after year after year, I've been at it for 50 years. There's the next project and the next project and the next project. And you keep adding in these projects. And lo and behold, after 50 years, you got a lot of good stuff going on for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's very apparent, yeah.
And so that's so weight gain in menopause, people are so quick to blame it's the hormones, or the hormones don't work. Well, I urge you to download our book and go right to the weight chapter, and you'll start seeing an introduction, because this isn't the definitive work on weight, but it's got some big stuff in there. There are people who specialize in weight, and they're going to tell you some more moving parts. But bottom line, you got to do better with stress. You got to do better with nutrition. You got to do a decent amount of exercise. And then you got to have life energy flowing. What's life energy? You'll know it when you're experiencing it. You'll be happy. You'll be having fun. You'll think things are funnier. You'll look at the people in your reality and you'll feel appreciation for them. You'll see their beauty. You'll enjoy participating with the people that you're living with. You'll get more and more connected to your own heart, your own soul, and to others, because we all are connected. We all matter to one another.
I believe that
So
fully.
it takes a certain amount of life energy, which means you got to heal your ability to connect with your own self. That's a doorway to being able to connect more intimately with others. Will people avoid connecting with their own self? Because there's parts of self that are carrying hurt. They're carrying fear and sadness and shame and a list of stuff. And if you start connecting with yourself, you're going to feel some of this stuff, which is precisely what your being needs. You need to become conscious of and feel and accept these uncomfortable feelings. Let them be what they are. Just breathe and feel. Breathe and feel. That's called acceptance. You'll be building the muscle called unconditional love, because acceptance of what you feel is an act of unconditional love. You accept yourself right where you are this day. Not tomorrow. We're not talking about tomorrow. I'll accept myself when I become different.
Right. Once I get there, I'll be happy.
Yeah, no. It's like, so there's a lot of moving parts, but they're very fundamental human things. They're not esoteric scientific things. Yes, we love the science interventions when we need them. God knows there's been so many people helped by operations at the right time, medications at the right time. Absolutely. These are tools, but and they can really buy us time so we can get back online with nutrition. Detoxification, I left that one out, unfortunately, because
It's
that's a big
okay. It's okay.
emotions in life. And so it was a simple question the questioner asked. Are hormones wackadoodle causing my weight gain? I can't tell. And the answer is very rarely. In some cases, you replenish the ovarian hormones and a woman starts correcting the weight issues. But that's not the most common thing. It takes more than just replenishing these powerful biochemicals that came out of the ovary. I apologize for being hoarse. I just went through a wonderful, powerful influenza that knocked me out of my butt.
I'm so sorry. You're tuchus.
Yes, and
Oh.
it was a gift too. It was an assemblage point shifter brought out of
Yeah. Well,
the universe.
yeah,
So
we
anyway,
learned about that too.
if I am hoarse, that's true. But I'm coming out the other side. I'm about 60% full throttle.
Well, oh my God, I'm so happy you're okay. Yeah, having the flu,
So
no fun.
so at any rate, simple question, in-depth answer. It all comes down to the same thing. Examine where you are with your own nutritional situation and get good at it. Examine exactly where you are with your own exercise program and take a step that you can actually do rather than give yourself something impossible so you can fail at it and feel worse about yourself.
So it's okay to do like baby steps.
Yeah. Well, you take the right step and you
Better
don't try
yet.
and take on every single step you need. You take on a couple that you can identify that you feel like, I can do that. I can actually do that. And so you do that step. And if you choose the right step, you'll succeed at it. And
Right.
that will empower you to take the next step at the right time. And then over
So,
the course of 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you get to experience an increase in your health, in your vitality, in your thinking and feeling, in the quality of your life. So it's called healing.
right. And there doesn't have to be blame and shame, associated with that, which
Well,
sadly,
let's say that blame and shame does come up. It's good that it comes up because human beings are harboring shame, the feeling like there's something wrong with me. And it will come up, especially if your commitment is to healing.
mm,
Shame wants to heal. And here's how to heal it: become consciously aware that your being is feeling shame. There's something wrong with me. And get so skilled that you can actually feel the emotion called shame. And breathe and feel the shame and accept it. Allow it to be the energy that it is. It's coming up for healing. You're not bringing it up to heal for the purpose of getting rid of it. You're not bringing it up to heal for the purpose of healing it. That's a euphemism called, I'll do some ritual so I can get rid of this terrible shame. No,
right.
it responds to one thing only: unconditional love. So if shame starts rising up for you, here's an action of unconditional love. You breathe and feel it and allow it to be the energy that it actually is. And you just breathe and feel. And that's an act of acceptance. You've got to allow it to be the actual energy that it is, and you've got to feel it. It's not an intellectual thing. And that will heal it, and you'll become more whole.
So would you say too that like in that work being done, we don't try really, really hard to do better, to do living through better biochemistry. I think that's how you put it. Um,
Better living through biochemistry.
yeah, that. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
So
they all matter, but you don't want to pretend that the cause of you not feeling well is just biochemical imbalance and insufficiency. That's not how you got biochemically depleted and imbalanced. You got that way because of emotions that you didn't know how to deal with, and thoughts and life decisions you were making that put you in stressful situations, that had you been more conscious and aware and impeccable in your choices, you wouldn't got yourself there. So true healing requires dealing with what matters. The emotions matter. The life choices matter. Replenishing the hormones matter, but you don't want to pretend that all I have to do is replenish my hormones. That's going to take care of everything. No,
right. Just,
their imbalance and their loss had so much more to do with all those issues of emotions, consciousness, life, nutrition, toxicity. Those causes are critical to identify and address.
where, as you've so often said and taught me, every hip knee bone connected to the thigh bone, to the hip bone, so on. Everything is connected. Yeah.
Yeah, and some things are more at the origin of trouble.
Right.
And so you want to get down to what causes are. And the causes are related to your life and your mind and your heart and your emotions. Why does someone overeat simple carbohydrates?
Comfort.
They were very sensitive. They'd go, wow, this is a rush, but this feels weird. I'm not going to do much of this stuff. Wow, this Coca-Cola feels weird to me. They would sense that, but that's not what they sense. They're trying to get a quick fix. They're feeling low, so they get something that'll raise their blood glucose really high, and that'll get them high, but it doesn't work over the long run. It's detrimental. So many of the adverse life choices are coming from a desire to medicate uncomfortable feelings and thoughts and results of life choices that had you been more awake, you wouldn't have made. So the bottom line is get good at all of it. Get good at your emotions. Get good at your mind. Get good at healthy boundaries, yes and no. Get more awake. You won't be afraid to become more conscious if you are simultaneously learning how to embrace what repressed feelings are going to come up when you commit to heal and you become more conscious. You'll become more conscious of shame, sadness, of fear. No problem. There's a simple technology to deal with any feeling you've ever stuffed in your body and in your fat tissue. It's called become conscious of the feeling and feel it and allow it to be the energy that it is. The technique is called acceptance, and it's really building your muscle for unconditional love. You accept yourself even though you feel massive shame and it hurts like wildfire. Even though you feel tremendous remorse for decisions that you made that hurt yourself and others. You let yourself feel the remorse. Finally, someone's taking a stand to accept the being that you actually are in the moment that you are being a being. That's very healing.
And then one can feel free. Yeah.
Ultimately, there's freedom there,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is a whole other topic. But
I know.
bring it up because that is, in order to feel free, you have to accept everything. You got to accept yourself. And you got to accept how life is unfolding for you. Gosh, I never should have got that flu. Guess what? I did get that flu. And to pretend I didn't get it, and I should not have gotten it.
Right. Yeah.
Man, the
Yeah.
only thing to do is to surrender to it.
Correct.
And all the uncomfortable feelings that are existing in my body at the time. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, we're covering a lot of territory here with a simple question on weight. But it wasn't such a simple question. But the good news
No.
this is what I want to bring us back to. You can become your own personal authority on nutrition, and it's not a big deal. And you can become your own personal authority on proper exercise for your body, beginning where you're at. It might be taking a walk up the stairs for the first month, once a day. That might be the beginning of your training program. Then the next month, it might be taking a walk around the block. And you succeed at that for a month. And then you're still going to start feeling better. And then you're going to go, gee, maybe I want to go 2 blocks today. Or you know what? I get this thing about food. I'm going to go to a farmer's market and have fun with these local farmers who their heart and soul is in the earth, and the food that they produce is so much more delicious. Holy mackerel. My biggest loss from this flu was I couldn't go to the farmer's market on Saturday.
Right. Aw. Aw.
But I didn't have any appetite, so I didn't.
I
It's
was just
not like.
gonna say, were you able to taste anything you were eating anyway?
So anyway, we take another question because we
can. I'm really glad you're feeling
and
better. I quickly
didn't.
want to.
I didn't tell you there's a hard stop at 3 minutes prior to the hour. It's a hard stop. I'll need to be off the air at 3 minutes prior.
I have these questions. I can ask them on Thursday. It's really,
Sure, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
because I think that was a really important discussion. Say, a question did come up on the chat uh, pertaining to this. It says, I quit smoking 6 months ago. I've gained over 20 pounds and all kinds of trouble that I did not have when I smoked. And now I'm hypothyroid, I'm sorry. And to me, that relates to everything that you just said, like that the body's warning systems, all of that. You get it?
Well, another fantastic question. Number one, congratulations on quitting smoking.
No joke.
This is huge, and what you don't realize is by making that change, you have changed your health outcome for your whole life. And nicotine does a lot of stuff. And it can inappropriately drive your metabolism. It's a stimulant. All of a sudden, you take away that hyperdrive by removing the driver called nicotine. It's a drug. And yeah, your metabolism doesn't function as briskly as it did. You look at lifetime smokers, lifetime, define lifetime in smokers, a lot shorter. Guaranteed. Madison knows this so well.
Oh, got it. Ugh. It's giving me
And
smoked.
but you look at smokers who smoke for many years, they're thin. But you don't want to know the problems they've been percolating in there. So I want to salute you for quitting smoking for 6 months. And I'd say stay with the program. You're doing great. Now other things pop up. And these problems were there. They were trouble, a ship waiting to hit a rock. But they're good. So many people midlife have a hypothyroidism. How did we get there? We beat up our thyroid gland. Smoking is one of the things that can beat it up. It can overdrive it. All of a sudden, you don't have
Hmm.
the accelerant, and your thyroid's not functioning. It's going into default mode, which is it's exhausted by being overdriven. You gain weight and you're hypothyroid. Well, the great news is you've done, and may you continue to do, the most critical thing. It's monumental to quit smoking. And to gain only 20 pounds, I know that you don't like the 20 pounds, but still, that's pretty good. And then hypothyroidism. Like I say, 2/3 of the women that we treat in menopause are also functionally hypothyroid. We treat them with thyroid. So the physicians and nurse practitioners and PAs and prescribing or advising compounding pharmacists that we train in our program, their longest piece of a 12-hour basic education program is on thyroid. And we've got this bioidentical thyroid stuff available to us. So we got these tools, and so you're at a wonderful time in history to address hypothyroidism. And there's a lot more that went awry, but you've taken the most monumental step. Now, like I was describing earlier, what's your next project? What's your next project? I was trying to catch a name there. Do you know who that was, Carolyn?
I don't. It says Facebook user. I may find out later, but
Okay,
yeah.
but now that you've actually are 6 months into quitting smoking, whoo, you've got a track record of powerful success. That's usually the hardest one. Now you identify, what's my next one?
Mm.
What's my eating habits? What's my exercise habits? Am I going to find a functional medicine doc that's really good at thyroid? Get that adjusted? Am I going to take care of my ovarian hormones? Find out what your next project is. And you've done the most monumental thing of all. You took on a hard one and you're turning the corner. And you've got a track record of succeeding in one of the hardest ones of all, quitting smoking. And you know what? Your soul, your body loves you for that. I know it's a funny way to put it. Your soul doesn't love you, but it's not two of you there.
I'm not
But
so sure about that.
but so good going, and now it's time to have two projects going on: the project of continuing to quit smoking, or maybe you're over and done with that. You may have pulled that off. There was a time in my life when I quit smoking, and you know what? I've never looked back. I've got other issues. They unfold day after day after day, but it's not that anymore.
Ah, yeah.
So at any rate, Carolyn, it's time for me to sign off. So I'm going to say personally, I'll see you all on Thursday.
We
And
will be here and we'll get to this and these and everything else in between. Dr. Rosensweet, thank you for your time. I'm glad that you're feeling better. Tasting food once again. And everybody, enjoy the next couple of days at least until we meet again.
all righty. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.